Shabbat Shalom to the 12 tribes of Israel and to the believing Gentiles. I am Brother Mark, and today I want to bring forth another edifying message for the family. And I wanted to kind of pick up where we left off on the last video, which was we were talking about Thanksgiving, but today's lesson will apply to not only Thanksgiving, but to all the pagan feast days and holidays that the heathen celebrate here in this world. And we first discussed in the last video how to identify it and what their Thanksgiving means. But now what we're going to address is how to deal with it righteously and how to rebuke people's offers to come celebrate on those days. And there are many people that are new in the faith that this becomes a very a big stumbling block, and they feel like I got to go hang out with my family, I got to go see my family, and people put all these guilt trips on believers as to why they should come over on Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever day it is. When in all actuality, that's not something we should do. And that's a clear demonstration by whomever is, engaged with you in this conversation or dialogue is not respectful of what you believe in. So before we go on, let's say Tefillah YAHOWAH, which is the Lord's Prayer. It can be found in Matthew, the 6th chapter, verses 9 through 13. And as always, we are going to the Hebrew Israelite Scriptures, the 400-year edition of slavery. Again, after the Shabbat day, please feel free to visit HebrewIsraeliteScriptures.com and browse the inventory, see what work the Khai YASHUA Press has been putting in. And when it is an opportune time for you, I highly encourage and hope that you make one of the purchases out of their catalog and library. But please remember, do this after the Shabbat day. Okay, so let's go to Tefillah YAHOWAH, which is in the front of the Hebrew Israelite Scripture. We're going to say Tefillah YAHOWAH, which is the Lord's Prayer, Matthew 6, 9 through 13. So here we go. Avinu, Sheba Shemayim, Yikwada Shemeka, Tabo Malkuteka, Yease Rasonka, Keyashir, Keva Shemayim, Gamba Aretz, Telanu, Ed Lekum, Zarkenu Hayom, Umakaulanu, Et Kovotenu, Kamoshe Gam, Anaknu, Makalnu, Lehayavenu, Altavienu, Lede Nisayon, Elehatsalenu Mehara, Kishaka, Hi Hamakut, Wahagavora, Wahatafera, Leome, Olami, Bashem Yehoshua. Hallelujah. Praise Yah. So, as I mentioned today, we are going to pick up where we left off on the video, the edification, we did on Thanksgiving. And we know that according to the word, the way the world celebrates Thanksgiving is not in all the way the Most High Yah wants us to offer up Thanksgiving to Him. And so we know that the world is not doing what the Most High asks in terms of the Thanksgiving. We also know, if we look in Leviticus 23, that there is actually no Thanksgiving in the holy feast days of the Most High Yah. So those are two reasons right there alone that we should not participate in these feast days. But for some that are new in the faith, these can be stumbling blocks. These can be really challenges because some of us haven't quite yet spiritually leveled up. We're still dealing with cardinal matters, and when we deal with our family and we deal with things of this world, these are cardinal matters. So we must have our Hebraic understanding in full effect. We must be seeing spiritually the things that, even if they're cardinal, we have to see the spiritual matters in them and handle them accordingly. Okay, so we're going to look at what Brother Paulos has brought forth regarding dealing with these feast days and idols. We're going to hear what the Messiah says, and of course we're going to tie everything together with the Most High Yah. So let's go to it. 1 Corinthians 8. Beautiful textbook, beautiful book. Family, I'm telling you, if you have not, let's take a look while we're here. So this is the beginning of the New Testament. I believe this is the Jordan River. There's a picture of it. It's such a beautiful text that, anybody and everybody will be edified. That the Lion of Judah, anybody and everybody that picks this book up is just completely in awe with what it brings to your spiritual understanding. So 1 Corinthians 8, 1 Corinthians 8, beginning at verse 1. Let's take a look at it. 1 Corinthians 8 and 1. Now, as touching things offered unto idols, we know we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. So when we're dealing with these feast days, when we're dealing with these family members that want us to just come over and see, our aunts and our uncles and our nieces and nephews and cousins, it can be very challenging for some people, okay? And for other people, once you find and come into the knowledge of what we are to do as believers of Mashiach and followers of the Most High, sometimes we can be, what? Puffed up with knowledge and prideful. Now knowledge is a cardinal matter. This is not that of the spirit. So knowledge can puff us up and make us prideful, make us unrighteous in the things that we say and do. It tends to lead people down a road of ad hominem attacks and the many fallacies associated with conversation and dialogue. So it's important that we do not allow this knowledge to puff us up and allow us to be arrogant and allow us to be bullies, because there was a time when you didn't have this information. And if somebody came at you real harsh or real sideways, that is generally speaking not the best way to get somebody to understand your point. So here it is, Paul is saying, knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. Another word for charity is love. And now this is not the love of the Christian church. You are simply showing your brother or sister, even if they're not in the faith, right? This is a neighbor of yours, right? So even if this person is not of the faith, that doesn't mean you're not supposed to be loving towards them. And what love is an action word, because how do we know when somebody actually loves us? They do things to demonstrate their love. Okay? Now, you simply planting the seed that these aren't of the Most High, and that these are based on murders, rapes, killing, and the atrocities, family, that were committed to the natives here in this land by the European. Okay, you planting a seed doesn't mean you have to be mad. Doesn't mean you have to call somebody stupid or think that they just don't get it. Remember, they don't have the same knowledge you do. Okay, our job is to plant seeds in people that they may one day be believers of Mashiach and one day follow a set-apart lifestyle. Remember, you cannot force anybody to do these things. All you can do is engage in this very act of love, which is you telling your neighbor, hey, I care enough about you that I just want you to know this information. Then what they do with that information is on them. Okay? That doesn't mean you have to be wishy-washy and the way that the religious doctrines and the religious dogma has made love out to be. That's not what we're here to do. Simply telling your brother and sister or your neighbor the truth is loving in and of itself, because that mere act, if they take that seed that you've planted and they become believers of Mashiach and they believe whom the 12 tribes of Yisrael are, and whom our so-called black brothers and sisters are in this country, you're helping them possibly achieve salvation. You're helping them achieve salvation. Okay? You don't want to be responsible for having been supposed to have planted a seed in somebody, but you came so harshly and so puffed up in knowledge that you completely turned them off of the Most High. Okay, verse 2. Let's go to it. But if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing, yet as he ought to know. Let's read that again, verse 2. And if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing, yet as he ought to know. So what Paulus is saying here is, you're going to run across people, in this walk of sharing the good news and sharing how we follow the Most High Yah. You're going to come across people that are know-it-alls. That, I know all about that bad stuff that's associated with Thanksgiving. Oh yeah, no, I know all that stuff, man. I know it all. Like, what I'm saying? They're just a know-it-all. You can't tell them nothing. They already know everything you're about to tell them. But what do they do with that? They do nothing. Why? Because Paulo says it right here. And if any man think he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing, yet as he ought to know. So the things that he's supposed to know, the things that he says he knows, he actually doesn't know. Leave them to their device. Why do we leave them to their device? Because it's the instructions that we were given by Mashiach. Let's go to it, Matthew 10. Matthew 10. When he sent the disciples out to preach the good news, he gave them instructions on how to handle things. And we're going to start Matthew 10, beginning at verse 11. And into whatsoever city or town ye shall enter, inquire who in it is worthy, and there abide till you go thence. So we're entering into a home. We've entered into a city because our homes are in cities and towns. So by entering into your neighbor's home, whether it's your brother, your cousin, just a friend, all right, we are inquiring who's worthy. And what does it mean to be worthy? To know the information that we possess and be willing to hear that information that we possess. Verse 12. And when you come into a house, salute it. So the Mashiach saying, look, we are representatives of him. He is our head. It is no different from when our wives go out in public or have to go handle dealings. They are a representative of you. So if they're outside acting the fool, that's a representation of you. So you don't want to be going into anybody's houses being a representation of our head, which is Yehoshua, and the Father, YAHOWAH, acting any kind of way. Because what are people going to do? Say, like, this is what y'all believe in? This is what you say the Most High Yah is about? This is what you say the Messiah is about? We want to be representatives of our head. That is why he says, and when you come into the house, salute it. That just means be respectful of it. You don't have to go into somebody's house and be disrespectful. Okay? And he's going to go on and explain why. 13, and if the house be worthy, let your shalom come upon it. But if it be not worthy, let your shalom return to you. So the Messiah is saying, if they're worthy, if they want to hear the good news, if they want to hear and have that seed planted on what these pagan holidays mean and what the Most High Yah worships, or what the Most High wants us doing to show praise and worship to him, for us, it's the Feast of Dedications coming up. Okay? If they don't want to hear that information, keep your shalom. Do not get upset. Do not become bothered by it. It is their salvation. It is their soul. Leave it to their device. You have planted the seed. You have given what you can give. If they're not worthy to hear, it is not our job to waste our time to get them to get it. Okay. Verse 14. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear your words, when you depart out of the house or city, shake off the dust of your feet. So what the Messiah is saying is, he's saying, do not fret. Do not worry about these people. If they do not want to hear the good news, if they do not want to hear the brotherly love that you're showing them, just retain your shalom, dust your feet off, and what you're going to do is move on. Because Messiah makes it very clear in 13, verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. So Yehoshua is saying, you guys got the opportunity to be warned. Sodom and Gomorrah didn't. So you guys are going to be well worse off than those that committed the sin and the iniquity and just the grotesque fornication that occurred in Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay?